Have you ever looked in the mirror and said to yourself, wow, I have really bad posture? I'd say the majority of people that walk into our clinic comment or judge themselves for their posture. I know I have in the past, and I know this is something that I am consciously working on even now, 10 years into my career. My name is Dr. Jocelyn Conley. I'm a pelvic floor physical therapist and co-founder of the Vagina Docs. And in this video, I'm going to break down whether posture is important or not. Let's just start off and say posture, contrary to whatever you've read out there, is so important. There's 6, probably a lot more benefits to being aware of your posture. Number 1, having good posture, and I hate to say it in a singular sense because there are many good postures. Generally speaking, we have one main and we want to be able to move in and out of posture very easily, but let's just, for simplicity's sake, focus on optimal posture. Optimal posture, one of the first benefits is joint and muscular health. Think of your posture as your starting point. Starting point meaning, like, if I'm going to reach above my head, this is going to result in a different mechanical outcome, or whatever's happening in the joint is going to be different than if I'm starting off like this. What I noticed in the last 6 months that I've been really aware of my posture is I notice a lot less snap, crackle, and pop in my shoulder, and I have a lot less tension in my neck and in my middle back since I've been aware and conscious about being more upright versus slouched. The second benefit is optimal posture helps improve our breathing mechanics. And why this is important is breathing impacts how our nervous system is, meaning how our state of calmness versus alertness versus adaptability to life's challenges and how we respond. Plus, breathing has other impacts on our body systems, particularly why for my work is breathing is one of the most important components of optimal pelvic health, amongst many other things. The third benefit is optimal posture helps improve our digestion. Think about it. If you're slumped like this, you're compressing an already compressed area. I like to explain our GI tract, particularly in the abdominal cavity, as a, have you ever gotten a tube of croissants and then popped it open and it was like, that's kind of like how our intestines are in our abdominal cavity. So when we're like this, it's even more compression and it's harder for things to move through. The fourth benefit is on our pelvic floor health, which I kind of alluded to with breathing. When we have more of a roundedness in this, our head that goes forward, how this affects our pelvic health is many ways. First is it increases pressure down on the pelvic floor. If you are standing or sitting, just go ahead and crouch and just pay attention to what you notice in the difference near your genitals or your pelvic floor if you have the awareness of where that is. And as you slump forward, what you may notice is increased pressure or there's a change. This posture, or having roundedness in our posture and not having the strength to hold ourselves upright, is one of the contributing factors to conditions like pelvic organ prolapse. Plus, there's other impact on our posture and pelvic health. The impact is very much related to what I've already talked about on its impact on our joint and muscular health as it relates to the pelvic floor, the abdominal wall, our breathing, and then digestion, because all of those 3 things are contributing factors of where our pelvic health stands. The 5th benefit is optimal postures help with our emotional health. When we stand crouched and small, our brain interprets emotions that align with that energy. But when we stand tall and proud, we emit confidence and self-love. There is a researcher in psychology, and if you may have heard of this, where they looked at people who stood in this power pose as opposed to someone who stood like this. And the ones that stood in the power pose performed better and just had a lot higher scores in psychological measures. So standing upright, taking up space, is really beneficial for our emotional health. Last but not least is optimal posture improves our brain health. When we grow through our spine, we stimulate the brain stem centers, and it improves the area of our brain that is specifically designed to help with our coordination, our learning responses, and our posture, the cerebellum. Now that you know the benefits of optimal posture, what does it take to have optimal posture, or what is optimal posture? So optimal posture is where we are able to support our spine from the crown of our head down to our tailbone, as well as position our thorax and our limbs in a space of neutrality, or we are creating space or taking up space versus crouching. One posture is unrealistic. So when other physical therapists, because I know this is a hot topic in my field, talk about there's not one perfect posture, there is truth to that, because we can't stand in this one spot all the time. We have to be dynamic and fluid. But in general, our starting point in where we move from, notice I have some flow as I reach and I'm moving through my spine. I'm starting and then coming back to this upright posture. To do this, I need 3 really key ingredients. Number 1 is muscular endurance. The ability for my postural muscles, which involve the deep and the outer core systems of our main trunk, so my core, we call it the axial skeleton, as well as deep and outer core endurance in each of our individual joints within our body. Because I could have this really great posture, but if my hip joints or my shoulder joints are all the way like here, where my elbows are pointing out, this is called glenohumeral internal rotation, or my hips can do similar things. My starting point is going to result in a lot of impingement in these joints. So we need to have this sense of posture, not only for this part of our skeleton, but also for the periphery in our limbs. And that takes work. If all you do is just stand and sit and you don't go out there and move your body and challenge your body, it's not going to stay strong and capable of holding yourself up. And the result of that is then muscular strain, excessive. So when your muscles are tired, they could develop trigger points, which can cause referred pain or tension, headaches, things like that. And we don't want that. So you have to train for that, both in just everyday life, but then also through some sort of movement practice or routine. The second thing is awareness. When we have zero knowledge or awareness of where we desire to be, we don't know what to do. So in a little bit, I'm going to break down how to get into optimal posture. But then the other aspect of awareness that I'm referring to is presence in your body. If you find yourself like daydreaming or scrolling, like mindlessly scrolling, or numbing your current state through just food, anything. It could literally be anything. It could be exercise. It could be drinking. It could be anything. If you are not present in your body is not going to get into the poses or the positions and move in the most optimal state typically. Now we have those small percent that are in flow, like let's think of our professional athletes or people who have really honed in a movement practice that when you look at them, they just make everything so easy. And a lot of them have reached to the point of flow past that initial like conscious awareness stage. but we have to be present. Whenever I find myself lost in activity, guess where I end up? Here. And so I create triggers for myself, whether that be an alarm, whether that be a word that I'm tuned into that can bring me back into my body and into the present. The third key ingredient is your emotional state. So if you feel subconsciously or consciously that you need to keep yourself small and you need to obey, or whatever inner child emotion that has resulted some sort of life patterning or sense of who you are, that can affect your posture. And so it takes a belief, a shift in your belief systems that drive your actions to stick with tuning into how you show up in your body, which a lot of us perceive and we would call as our posture. So I want you to do an activity, and we're going to test these aspects of what it takes to have optimal postures. And as I have you do this activity, I'm going to kind of walk you through what optimal posture is. So optimal posture, just what do you think it is? I'll tell you what I thought it was for a long period of time, and that was pull the shoulder blades back and stick my chest out. And so as you can see, I'm pretty upright. No mention of my neck at all. I'm just like here. And the thing that comes up to me is I developed earlier on, and I was really self-conscious about my chest. And so I would try to cover that because I was embarrassed and I didn't want attention for it. But what I can tell you is pulling the shoulder blades back is typically not the solution. Our postural system has many different parts that are involved in positioning for optimal postures. And I say postures because there's different variations to be in more optimal positions depending on what we're doing, whether it's reaching forward, reaching above, using our legs. And that's beyond the scope of this video. But when I'm talking about optimal posture, I want you to think about growing through your spine. So say you're like 5'2" normally or 5'3" normally, and you want to grow tall starting from the crown of your head. And as you go from the crown of your head, it results in this kind of like tucking action of the neck and growth through the neck. And then it pulls up on our middle back, and then it may pull a little bit on the lower back. It could be an arched or it could be a rounding depending on your structure. For me, kind of flattens, and my deep core naturally turns on. And so I talk a lot in my videos about avoiding clenching. So this is where the awareness comes in. I don't want to just like suck in. I want to be intentional and just gently provide myself the support I need to be able to hold this position. And then I'm growing through my feet, so I'm not dumping in my feet. What's that mean is I'm not coming up on my toes, but I'm just a little more active by pressing my toes into the ground, keeping my heels grounded. And then once I get into this position, I feel like I'm holding quite a bit of tension. I'm going to soften while staying in this position. And then I can go about my day. And it's not a lot of effort, but that's just my experience. I train a lot. I train these postural muscles a lot so that I could do this. It takes work, like I said earlier. Now, as you try to get yourself in this position, I want you to pay attention to what comes up in your awareness. When you stand tall, do you notice aches, or do you notice cramping? Do you notice self-judgment through words? Do you feel like you're trying to take up space and something or someone is in the back of your mind saying, don't do that? Or do you feel free? Do you feel confident? Do you feel imposter syndrome? No matter what you feel, let it sit in your system and just feel it. Take a moment and just be like, oh. What I feel at times is just like, I feel imposter syndrome. Like, don't stand too tall. Don't make yourself too big. And then at other times I get chills and I'm like, this is the space I need to step into. This is my essence coming out. And like right now I could just feel the chills like coming up and down my arms, my legs, because I love speaking and I feel a lot more confident in this posture versus here. Now, get into your other posture, whatever your preferred posture is. And for me, it's kind of like this. Sitting is another great position to get yourself into. So if you're standing, test this out. If you're sitting, test this out. I, for a long time, would make myself small sitting. And sometimes I still do that and I have to catch myself because I am the youngest in my family. And I always was told, you're too young to know that, or what do you know? And that led to myself having to create or acquire all these accolades or initials so that I had some whatever you want to call it. So I had backing to what I was saying. And now anything can come up, but I would literally make myself small and it was coming from that. So sit, get into different positions, allow yourself to get into that preferred posture and just sit and feel what comes up. You cannot release what you continue to suppress. Feeling is healing. So until you start feeling those suppressed emotions, you're just gonna find yourself right back in that posture. So to wrap up this video, we talked about the benefits of posture. There were 6 key benefits: joint muscular health, breathing, digestion, pelvic floor health, emotional health, and brain function, brainstem, cerebellar health. Posture takes work. You have to put the time to develop the endurance, the muscular endurance and strength to actually hold yourself there and then be able to transition in and out of it throughout the day. We don't hold this posture all the time. It's just in spurts, but many spurts throughout the day. Second is awareness, being present in your body versus numbing out, getting lost into scrolling and stuff like that. And then third, it takes emotional work as well, like being real with what you're feeling and why you're feeling it and where that came from and moving through it. And then understanding, what moment to moment, what you're noticing. Is it hard to get into this growth posture, or is it easy for you in terms of strength, but not easy emotionally? Like, test the waters. And then this is not an original activity from me, but this is something that I have done. I've learned from other people, where you assume the power posture, where your feet are a little bit wider than your hips or hip width apart. Your hands are on your hips. You're growing tall and you are feeling powerful. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this video opened up a new part of your awareness regarding your posture and how you show up in your body. If you have any questions about anything I covered in this video, comment below or reach out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.